This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Reality check. European experts caution offshore wind projects take a long time and a lot of money.
Sounding the alarm. The IWK warns a high percentage of car seats are being used incorrectly.
And Halifax's deaf community holds get-togethers to end pandemic-era isolation.
Increasing clouds for Thursday, with our next system rolling in Thursday night into Friday with some much-needed rain. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. Premier Tim Houston is once again pitching wind west, this time to industry leaders from around the world at a forum in Halifax. That includes delegates from Germany, which is decades ahead of Nova Scotia in developing offshore wind.
As Taryn Grant reports, one speaker gave a reality check on how long these projects take and when they could pay off.
Premier Tim Houston was greeted with a warm reception at an offshore wind conference in Halifax. He reiterated his pitch for a massive build-out of offshore wind and a transmission line to export it.
When we can together unlock the potential of really is one of the world's greatest untapped resources. That's what we have.
But his ambitious plan was put into perspective by another speaker. Philip Tremor says it will be tight to have turbines spinning by 2033.
My suggestion here would be, it is possible for sure, but don't move too fast.
It took Germany 23 years to start generating offshore energy. Tremor says this is an exception. He thinks a good timeline is about 10 years.
Because there's a lot of issues like environmental issues, they have to be investigated and so on, and that needs time. It needs also time to get your communities on board, to do some acceptance work, to do some spread some knowledge across your communities. This is also important.
Even once wind farms are operating, Tremor says government should not expect an immediate windfall. Germany gave big subsidies up front and didn't get any revenue back for more than a decade.
My experience from different markets is you need high subsidies to ramp it up, and then later on you can generate governmental revenues.
Houston says he hopes revenues will start coming into Nova Scotia immediately, but he knows it isn't a sure thing. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Halifax.
Meanwhile, Premier Houston says he has no plans for cuts or austerity measures, despite the deficit growing to recent levels. A budget update earlier this week showed the deficit is now on track to hit $1.2 billion. But Houston says the record spending by his government is what's required to meet its key promise, and the public should not be concerned.
We're investing in healthcare. I've been very clear since even from opposition days, certainly during the 2021 campaign, certainly during the most recent campaign, that we will invest in making sure Nova Scotians have access to healthcare. It's expensive. This is the reason why the Liberals didn't deliver healthcare, because it's expensive.
Houston reiterated that future natural resource development projects will help improve the bottom line, but opposition leaders say such projects are years away from paying dividends.
The governing PCs introduced a bill today they say would eliminate red tape and encourage business activity, particularly in the natural resources sector. Minister of Service Efficiency and Environment Tim Holman says the bill would streamline and clarify approval processes for industrial projects without weakening environmental protections.
We can protect our environment and safely and responsibly develop our natural resources. It does not need to be one or the other. We can and we must do both.
The bill also proposes new tools that could allow provincial officials to remove fees associated with mineral resources projects.
A former member of Nova Scotia's Olympic sailing training program has launched a lawsuit against Sail Canada and Sail Nova Scotia, alleging they failed to act when she reported a sexual assault. The British Columbia woman was a sailor in Nova Scotia and claims she was assaulted by a teammate in July of last year. She says she reported the incident to supervisors at both organizations and was retaliated against and subjected to harassment. In a statement, Sail Canada says that since it became aware of the allegations, it has worked with partners at the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport and has reviewed its policies to ensure a safe environment.
A 23-year-old man has pleaded guilty to impaired driving causing death charges related to a deadly car crash 2 years ago on a rural road near Windsor that took the lives of 2 passengers and injured a third. The trial for Drake Robert Brown was supposed to begin this week in provincial court in Kentville, but he instead pleaded guilty to 3 offenses. The 2 counts of impaired driving causing death relate to victims 20-year-old Braden Lemon and 20-year-old Victoria Cousins. Brown also pleaded guilty to impaired driving causing bodily harm related to a passenger who survived. Brown is scheduled to be sentenced in February.
Staff at the IWK are sounding the alarm about the high percentage of parents who are using children's car seats incorrectly. A team from Dalhousie University and the IWK's Child Safety Link conducted a series of province-wide roadside checks. What they discovered has them worried. Preston Mulligan reports.
During the past year, researchers set up road checks in 33 communities in the province. 1,005 child passengers between the ages of 0 and 14 were checked in almost 700 cars.
We just wanted to see, how are the kids doing? How are they buckled?
Turns out, not very well. 84% of the cars checked were carrying children whose car seats were either used or installed incorrectly. 3% of those checked were not restrained at all.
You can't choose the day that you're going to have a collision, and so it's important to make sure their child is securely buckled up on every ride. We also know that, unintentional injuries are the leading cause of death in children aged 0 to 14, and that car crashes are the primary reason for that.
Hutka says the last time data like this was collected was in 2012. Results were better then. She says it could be our growing population, newcomers with language or cultural barriers, the more complex array of car seat options, or mixed messages. Right now, there's no legal requirement for children to be safely buckled in a taxi.
A lot of parents and caregivers are getting the message that it's safe to put a child on your lap unrestrained in a vehicle, and then later when they get their own vehicle, it feels safe to get in a car and put a child on your lap.
Whatever the reason, RCMP say they're not inclined to issue tickets to offenders.
We want to make sure we educate the parents and ensure that they know what they need to do to make sure that their children are riding safe. So we use it as an education piece. So discussing with the parent or guardian or driver what needs to happen to make sure that they're secure. So at first, it's always education. Some people just don't know.
Hutka says using a car seat or booster seat correctly reduces the risk of children suffering injury or death by 71%. Preston Mulligan, CBC News, Halifax.
And here now with a quick look at the weather forecast is Ryan Snoddon.
And that much needed rain is on the way, at least some of it.
Yeah, that's right. We're looking at a pretty quiet day overall for Thursday, but Thursday evening into the overnight, that much needed rain will indeed work in. There's the area of high pressure, keeps us quiet tonight and to start the day on Thursday. And then that building cloud throughout the day, Thursday afternoon, really approaching now for the southwest, but it does look like that wet weather will hold off until the evening and the overnight. That's when we'll see the wettest conditions, which will linger into Friday morning. And then we'll see some gradual clearing throughout the day on Friday. By Friday evening, the system is gone. And we will see a pretty nice weekend shaping up. More on that later. Let's have a look at that rainfall outlook. Areas in the green here, this is where the baseline is about 10 millimeters. And I think that's going to be most of the provinces, at least 10 millimeters, with pockets up to 20 millimeters and even up towards 30 millimeters in some areas. And the best chance of that, thankfully, are the areas that need the rain the most. And that is across Cumberland, Colchester, through the Cobequid Bay area, down through the Annapolis Valley into Digby County. These have been some of the driest conditions, not only in Atlantic Canada, but in the entire country over the last few months. So some much needed wet weather indeed. We'll break down that full 7-day forecast with the weekend coming up.
Do stay tuned for that. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Halifax is a step closer to regulating infilling at Dartmouth Cove. On Tuesday, Council voted against a staff recommendation to wait for a Dartmouth waterfront revitalization plan before making changes. And it voted for considering proposed changes to restrict most water lot development and infilling in the Cove. Councillor Sam Austin proposed the amendment. He says there is strong community sentiment on this issue. A public hearing on the issue will be scheduled at a later date.
The East Hants municipality is exploring a new transit system. An electric bus route would serve Lance, Elmsdale, Enfield, and the Halifax airport. But some councillors say their residents will not support a service they won't use. Staff say even the cheapest financial model would increase the general property tax rate paid by all homeowners.
People don't change their habits overnight. This is sort of that fundamental shift, and it is a public service, like police, like health, like education. So I guess you have to go into this realizing that and realizing that not everyone is going to use the service.
Ramsey says more routes could be added in the future. Staff will come back with a consultation strategy that will include public meetings and an online survey.
There will be no moose hunt in Cape Breton this year. The Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs says a moratorium on the hunt is being extended another year. That comes after concerns about a decline in the island's moose population. The Assembly says although the population is showing signs of slight recovery, numbers are still below sustainable levels. According to this year's species count, there are an estimated 1,900 moose in the Cape Breton Highlands. That's up more than double from the previous year, when it was estimated there were only 800 moose on the island. Last summer, the Department of Natural Resources paused the non-Indigenous moose hunt for 3 years.
A group of deaf people in Halifax are trying to rebuild their sense of community by hosting weekly meetups. They say isolation became a significant issue during the pandemic, and it has taken years to recover socially. CBC's Carolyn Ray has that story.
This community room at Northwood's Halifax campus has become a joyous, safe space for members of the deaf community. And it's largely because of Mike Perrier, who is determined to bring people who sign together.
Laughing. The laughter is the best.
They love playing cards and doing crafts. This used to happen decades ago. There was once a social club in the city where deaf people would gather on weekends, but that building was torn down. They tried again to revive meetups about 10 years ago, but that came to a halt because of COVID. And even though pandemic lockdowns are a thing of the past, Perrier is worried that many deaf people are still isolated.
I've been seeing so many people who are lonely and don't have an ability to sign with other people, and being alone, I don't like that. And so I want to see deaf people have same opportunities as hearing communities, so they have good times and activities, and we'd like to do the same thing.
So he decided it was time to organize a new safe space. Anyone can join in, not just Northwood residents. And the more people who show up, the more activities they'll do. Twice a week, about a dozen people gather here at Northwood, but the hope is that soon many more will join in to the event. Matthew Hazlitt is the youngest one here. He's originally from Windsor. He struggled to find his footing when he moved to Halifax, but joining this group has taught him a lot. He's even learning old signs from Maritime Sign Language.
I'm hoping in the future the deaf community of all ages will come together and we can build a safe space for us. Yes, I'd like to do more, even having people outside of Northwood come. Not to have the same people here every week. It'd be nice to see different faces.
Communication, it's really the most important. It's more about the idea that we are not isolated.
It's small beginnings, but Perrier and his friends have big dreams. They're hoping that these renewed meetups will offer more people an atmosphere that feels like home. Carolyn Ray, CBC News, Halifax.
The snowbird sings a song he always sings, and speaks to me of flowers that will bloom again in spring. When I was young, my heart was young then too.
Of course, that is Nova Scotia songbird and Spring Hill's own Anne Murray with one of her perennial classics. She'll be bringing her iconic sound to Nashville next month at a concert in her honor.
It's called The Music of My Life, an all-star tribute to Anne Murray. Performers set to pay tribute to her include Katie Lang, Trisha Yearwood, and Martina McBride.
It's all happening October 27th at Nashville's legendary Opry House. And tickets go on sale today. Lovely spot, Big Tancook Island. Ryan's up next with his full weather forecast. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
Yeah, so some good news on the weather front. There's rain in the forecast.
That's right. And some folks are actually going to get a bit of a soaking.
Yeah, those who need it most as well. That Annapolis Valley region, Tri-County area region, those are looking set to see a pretty good dose here of rain. Not enough. We know that, but the bar is so low. We'll take anything. First, let's have a look at our webcam shot. A beautiful evening in Yarmouth. And yes, thanks to NovaScotiaWebcams.com for this. You can see the clouds just in the distance there, but overall, pretty quiet evening in Yarmouth and across Nova Scotia. Temperatures out there right now, 19 degrees in Yarmouth. It is 14 Antigonish, Cheticamp, Sydney, and Ingonish beaches. A bit of a northerly flow keeping temperatures cooler there in the northeast. And those winds today in from the north and have been steady in through Cape Breton especially. 20 kilometers per hour Caribou Point right now, 26 at Sydney, and yeah, not too gusty. Now, as we look at the weather systems map, the clouds have been clearing away after a bit of a sluggish start to the day, but actually it ended up to turn into a really, really nice afternoon as expected. This area of high pressure is in firm control right now. Our latest system moving out, and this is the next weather maker that is going to be moving in, and that will continue to roll in as we move through the later stages of Thursday. Quick look at our temperatures across Canada. Actually, I guess we're not going to do that. That's the next graphic. I put the rainfall graphic in here instead, so we'll show that first. And you can see 10 to 20 millimeters looks to be kind of the baseline. I think that most of us will get into that range, which is great. The best chances, it appears, for 20 millimeters or a bit more, again, is going to be Cumberland County back into the Annapolis Valley and down into the Tri-County area where we could even exceed 30 millimeters. Fingers and toes crossed. There's that map I was looking for. 31 in Regina right now with some heat surging up into southern Saskatchewan and Manitoba right now. Sharp front with temperatures into the teens. This is the time of year when we're going to see some real big fluctuations in temperatures across the country as the warm air tries to hang on and the cold air starts to approach. 7 degrees in St. John's this evening, as you saw there. That'll be about our temperature tonight and into tomorrow morning for places like Cape Breton. 6 to 8 to 9 degrees in through the rest of mainland Nova Scotia. Will be right around double digits in through the Tri-County area. And there is a potential for some patchy inland low-lying area frost here in through the east for tomorrow morning, with temperatures there dipping as cool as 3-4 degrees. Now, we'll see some increasing clouds on Thursday morning, and yeah, as we work our way throughout the day, the potential for maybe a couple of very spotty showers ahead of the main line of this system, but overall it looks like that's a pretty low threat right now, but can't rule it out completely, so mentioning it here. And then this is when we'll really start to see that wet weather rolling in, is after supper time, as that next line and the main line, the meat and potatoes of this system, does move through. 17 to 20 degrees for Cape Breton tomorrow. Nice day, lots of sunshine, southerly winds across the island. Similar story for Antigonish and Guysborough County and back into Pictou County and up through the North Shore, Cobequid Bay, down into the metro area. Increasing clouds here throughout the afternoon, but a nice day overall. Tri-County area, in through the valley, an increasingly southeasterly flow into the afternoon. 20 gusting 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, so a heads up on that with those clouds approaching. And again, that chance for showers into the mid to later stages of the afternoon, but the rain holding off until the evening. That's when it will track through into Friday morning. We'll see rain tapering off to some scattered showers and the potential for maybe a few afternoon sunny breaks, though it looks like a low chance that is right now, but certainly the potential is there before the sun sets. Now, Saturday looks great. High pressure in firm control. Northerly winds keeping temps maybe a little bit cool on Saturday. Temperatures ranging between about 16 to 19 degrees. Sunday, back near 20 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud. And it does look quiet for next week for the most part. Notably, a bit of a cool fallish shot coming Tuesday into Wednesday. Keeping an eye on the tropics next week for sure. This area here actually has an 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. That's one we'll have to keep an eye on. This actually just moments ago became Umberto, which is one that we'll also be keeping an eye on, but Umberto looks more likely, Tom and Amy, to kind of spin out and back out to sea and be another storm for the fish, but we'll keep you posted on that as well.
All right, happy to hear about that.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Speaking of storms, it was 3 years ago this week that post-tropical storm Fiona hit the Maritimes, causing widespread damage.
Communities across PEI are ready with emergency plans just in case another post-tropical storm hits the province this hurricane season. The CBC's Tony Davis has more.
Even with no storms on the horizon, communities on PEI are making sure they're prepared for the weather to shift. During post-tropical storm Fiona, hundreds of meals were served at the Milton Vale Community Hall. And while the weather is calm now, the community has upgraded this warming center so it's ready.
We have an approved emergency preparedness plan. We have an EMO committee. We have the warming center here at the Milton Community Hall. I think we're in fairly good shape.
They've added a generator and an air purifier too for those who might be ill. There are cots along with pillows and blankets stacked into these containers. McDonald's says individuals also need to be ready with an emergency kit.
So it's really important to have your own emergency plan and to have your own preparedness kit packed and have some cash stashed away and some water and some granola bars and food that you can get to easily. I think that's crucial.
Summerside's plan includes roadside maintenance, so they're ready when strong winds hit.
Vegetation management, which is clearing as much and as best possible trees and other vegetation away from lines throughout the city.
Information on warming shelters and how to pack an emergency kit is especially important to people new to the island. The Immigrant and Refugee Services Association is putting on a workshop this week.
A lot of people are coming now for school, for work, and a lot of other things. And the fact that you may not experience some of these in your home countries, it'd be very important to kind of learn what, emergency preparedness looks like, having an emergency plan.
As for what should be in an emergency kit, the province recommends extra blankets, plastic sheets and duct tape to shelter in place, at least 2 to 3 days worth of water and non-perishable food, a printed list of contact names and phone numbers, and a first aid kit.
The more people are prepared, the less strain it takes on resources, and the quicker we can respond to events.
The province also warns people who have a generator to learn how to use it safely and make sure that smoke and carbon monoxide detectors are working. Tony Davis, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Coming up, as U.S. politics disrupt the global order, we'll explore how Canada's foreign policy must adapt. As President Donald Trump and the United States continue to redefine that country's international role, many are left to try to figure out where that leaves Canada in the new global order. Kim Nossel is Professor Emeritus of Political Studies at Queen's University. Sir, you've written extensively about Canada in a post-American world, and you're speaking about this, in fact, Thursday evening at the Halifax Central Library. First of all, did Donald Trump's comments at the United Nations this week surprise you at all?
No. I mean, essentially, this is Mr. Trump reprising his favorite hits. Lots of grievance, lots of insults, lots of concerns about the world order. And so, no, this was Donald Trump at his, in a sense, at his usual.
Okay. You know, you talk about a post-American world. What do you mean by that?
Well, essentially, it's to be contrasted with the 80 years of what can be called the American world. In other words, the US-led, Western-dominated international order that we all knew and many of us in the West loved, down to 2017, when Mr. Trump first took office. The post-American world refers to sort of the end of that era, when the United States no longer is a leader, when international trade is no longer central to the way in which we organize ourselves. So, from that point of view, the coming again of Mr. Trump in this year has essentially meant the arrival of something that comes after that American world.
Yeah, and so lots of people are trying to get their head around what that means. What does a post-American world mean for Canada when it comes to, let's say, our economy to begin with?
Well, I think that the post-American world means, in the first instance, that, as Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, has said on a number of occasions, that the decision that we collectively made in the late 80s, early 90s, to basically hitch our wagon to the trading relationship with the United States, that is essentially now over. And the real concern is now what happens to our trade relationship with the United States. The Prime Minister and his government are trying essentially to diversify our trade. But let's face it, inertia is a pretty powerful thing. And it's likely that we're going to continue to depend upon the United States.
And Canada and other countries as well are trying to sort of chart that new path, and you're seeing it on different facets of their governments, including in Canada here, where Canada has recognized Palestine, for example. The president's saying now that will make it difficult to reach a trade deal with Canada, a sort of a connection of issues. So how do you see that sort of dynamic playing out?
Well, I think in his rejection of that essential threat from the American president was quite clear that Canada has an independent foreign policy, and in this particular instance, we're, along with a number of our other Western friends and allies, in recognizing Palestine. And it seems to me that the efforts of the United States administration to stop that recognition is simply going to be rejected by Canada.
And so, we're looking at that post-American world. What does it look like when it comes to, say, Canada's defense?
Well, that actually is going to be a major difficulty, because the way in which we've organized our defense policy and our armed forces is essentially to be interacting with the United States and their armed forces. And so that when it comes to looking at the future, the question of how we rethink our security relationship with the United States is going to be of significant problem, because our armed forces conceive of themselves very much as essentially an adjunct to American armed forces. And from that point of view, the future, the 20s and the 2030s, are going to be a real challenge for Canada as it seeks to invoke an independent defense policy.
Such a big topic, so many questions. Listen, really appreciate getting your insights on some of this today. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
Coming up, a shooter has killed at least one person and wounded 2 others at a U.S. immigration office in Dallas.
And after leaving a trail of destruction in Hong Kong and Taiwan, Typhoon Rega is barreling towards China. Welcome back. There's been a deadly shooting at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement office in Dallas. Police say a gunman opened fire on the facility, critically wounding 2 people in custody and killing another before taking his own life.
But Texas officials are suggesting the detainees were not the intended target. They say ICE agents were. Willie Lowry reports.
Officials say the suspect fired from a nearby rooftop, striking a van carrying detainees at the entrance of an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. Now, the FBI says, though, that the shooter fired indiscriminately. The ICE facility itself was being targeted, and it says bullets found near the suspect, who died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, had anti-ICE messages on them.
It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence.
The Trump administration was quick to react. Vice President J.D. Vance, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem all issued statements condemning the attack and expressing concern for the safety of ICE agents. Vance also took aim at the left.
I said Charlie Kirk's assassination was the most political and disgusting violence that we've had in this country in the last couple of weeks. And that was true maybe until this morning. We know this person was politically motivated. They were politically motivated to go after law enforcement.
ICE has been front and center in the U.S. for several months now. U.S. President Donald Trump has used the agency in a way few other presidents have, sending masked ICE officers into some of America's biggest cities in an effort to crack down on illegal immigration. The shooting also comes just 2 weeks after conservative personality Charlie Kirk was killed in Utah. Republican Senator Ted Cruz issued an appeal to Americans to lower the rhetoric and end the political violence that has pulsated through the U.S. in recent months.
We ought to come together and have some decency across the political aisle to say this violence is wrong and it needs to stop.
No law enforcement agents were killed in the attack. Willie Lowry, CBC News, Washington.
One of the strongest typhoons in years is battering South China with powerful winds, huge storm surges, and flooding. Typhoon Rega has already left a trail of destruction in Hong Kong and Taiwan, killing at least 27 people. Laura Westbrook reports.
Chinese weather experts are calling this the king of storms, and here in Hong Kong it brought hurricane-force winds. Now, the strong winds brought down trees and heavy rain caused flooding, and there was also storm surges in parts of the territory. Dozens of people were injured during the typhoon, and it also brought the city to a standstill. Hundreds of flights were cancelled, schools suspended, as well as many businesses closed. And heavy rain triggered by Typhoon Rega caused a barrier lake in Taiwan to burst its banks. That sent water surging into a town in the eastern county of Hualien. There was video of homes being flooded as well as cars submerged by this muddy water. Several people have died, and authorities have sent search and rescue teams to try and help with that effort there. The storm is now affecting southern China with heavy rain and strong winds. Authorities ordered businesses as well as schools to be shut down in at least 10 cities across the southern part of the country, and hundreds of flights were also cancelled and emergency personnel put on standby. Now they have ordered people to stay inside, and over the last couple of days before this storm struck, people stockpiled on food, and really the authorities in China doing everything they can to try to minimize casualties from this storm. Laura Westbrook, CBC News, Hong Kong.
A massive sinkhole opened up outside a major hospital in central Bangkok. Incredibly, no one was hurt as a large section of a 4-lane road sank and the sinkhole grew larger. It forced evacuations from the surrounding area. Officials believe the collapse is related to construction work for an underground train station. The hospital says it will be closed for outpatients for at least 2 days because of the incident. With the monsoon season underway, repairing or containing the damage could be a challenge.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the United Nations General Assembly, asking once again for more international help in his country's war with Russia. He warned his allies that if Vladimir Putin isn't stopped soon, Russia's war will expand beyond Ukraine. Margaret Evans reports.
A big week in New York for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
His address to the gathered nations, an appeal to save Ukraine, and with it, faith in the international community.
Peace depends on all of us, on the United Nations. So don't stay silent while Russia keeps dragging this war on. Please speak out and condemn it.
His address followed some unexpected cheerleading from the U.S. president on Monday. Donald Trump posting on social media that Ukraine could be in a position to regain all its territory from Russia with European help.
It's a big shift. It's a big shift. This post of Trump, it's a big shift.
It was just over a month ago that Trump hosted Vladimir Putin on U.S. soil, handing the Russian president what critics called a PR coup. And in the past, Trump has insisted Ukraine will have to cede territory to Russia in exchange for peace, meaning his latest remarks are being taken with a grain of salt.
After all, it's become a common maxim amongst world diplomats trying to decipher Donald Trump that he's often swayed by whoever he speaks to last.
That's why the Kremlin's response to Trump's remarks has been relatively mild, says this Russian analyst. In Moscow, they understand that no matter what Trump says at one moment, there's still time to shift the situation in their favor, he says. In Ukraine, the verdict was much the same from people enduring ongoing Russian attacks. He's the kind of person who changes his mind every week, says Alexander, a soldier. It is, of course, on the ground in Ukraine where what's at stake in terms of international pressure and diplomacy is most painfully clear. These images from Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine after the latest Russian drone attack on the city. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Conservatives are calling on Prime Minister Mark Carney to fire the public safety minister. This in the wake of a leaked audio recording where he appears to question the effectiveness of the Liberals' gun buyback program. Rafi Boudjikanian has the latest from Ottawa.
As Liberal parliamentarians filed in for their weekly caucus meeting, they told journalists they believe that Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangri is the right MP for the job.
Gary Anandasangri is an incredibly committed public servant. He's carrying some very big files.
My experience with Minister Anandasangri is that he is a professional who cares deeply about the country, and I value his partnership.
At issue, a leaked video of a private conversation during which Anandasangri suggested he does not have faith police can enforce a gun buyback program, which would see Ottawa trade cash with gun owners for guns that are no longer considered legal under the Liberals' latest gun control legislation. During question period, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre tried pushing Prime Minister Mark Carney to fire the public safety minister.
The public safety minister has admitted that going after farmers and hunters hunt rifles is not going to fight crime. So the only reason to do this is politics. If he was telling the truth, then why not reverse? If not, why isn't he fired?
What the government is doing with the gun registry is putting in place a much more efficient way. An efficient way for Canadians to voluntarily return prohibited firearms, for fair compensation. This government is going to do it right.
The buyback program itself is expected to kick into place next month with a pilot project in Nova Scotia. With their legislation, the government have banned some 2,000 weapons. They call them firearms that are assault style. Conservatives and other critics say the Liberals are punishing law-abiding farmers and hunters. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The countdown is on for NASA's Artemis II mission. Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen is set to blast off early next year, along with 3 American crewmates for a trip around the moon. As the CBC's Nicole Mortellero reports, Hansen has been training for years to make it happen.
We have great plans, but the most important thing we're working on refining and honing is how do we handle the unknown? We have this great group of simulation trainers who come up with these sort of evil tests for us. And we'll be sitting in the sim, all our mission controllers are in mission control, and then stuff will just start breaking. You're like, oh, come on, really that? And then we'll just have to see what we can create to come home.
The mission, you know, it's a test of the spacecraft, because you have to remember, nobody has ever flown in this spacecraft before. It's gone around the moon, but uncrewed. So they want to test certain aspects. How does it function? One of the most interesting things is when they launch, they will be orbiting Earth for 24 hours. They're going to actually test the spacecraft. Also, they're going the farthest anybody has ever gone. It could be anywhere from 7,400 kilometers beyond the moon or 11,000. So this is pretty great, and it's a great opportunity for Canadians.
And to my fellow Canadians, you should also be extraordinarily proud that we are represented in the Artemis program. And it wasn't a gift, you earned it. For over decades now, you have responded to that call, to that opportunity with a can-do attitude.
And his crewmates have nothing but wonderful things to say about him. And just interesting to note, earlier during the press conference, the Canadian flag was actually on the stage, but then was removed for some reason, and we don't know why. And a few people were quite upset about it, not necessarily Canadians either, but eventually they did put the flag back on the stage, and we fly that flag proudly. Nicole Mortillero, CBC News, Houston.
Jimmy Kimmel highlighted the importance of free speech as he made an emotional return to late-night TV Tuesday night. ABC suspended his show last week after comments he made related to the killing of U.S. right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. The CBC's Ali Chiasson has more on Kimmel's big night.
Jimmy Kimmel's return had raw emotion.
You understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't.
And here he is setting the record straight on his intentions behind his remarks on Charlie Kirk's death.
I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly.
You know who's not clapping? The people behind Kirk's media company, Turning Point USA. A spokesperson tweeted this: "Not good enough, Jimmy," along with what they would have wanted to hear.
There are certain people who are never going to be satisfied, no matter what he says.
I spoke with the executive TV editor at Variety magazine about reaction and ratings.
It's looking like right now the monologue on YouTube is doing some of the best numbers that Jimmy Kimmel has ever done.
Remember, not everyone could tune in on TV, because two companies that own about 70 ABC stations said they're still not airing his show. Important to note that those companies, Nexstar and Sinclair, have deals in the works that require FCC approval.
I think for those stations, they missed out on getting eyeballs to their newscasts as well before Jimmy Kimmel Live, and they obviously couldn't sell advertising during what was a huge show last night. But those corporations have bigger fish to fry with the FCC.
That didn't stop Kimmel from poking fun at them, with Robert De Niro playing FCC Chair Brendan Carr.
But it seems like the FCC is using mob tactics to suppress free speech.
What the did you just say to me?
The thesis of the episode being,
this show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Nexstar says they're continuing to preempt the show, but after Tuesday's episode, the company said they're having productive discussions with Disney about how to potentially move forward with Jimmy Kimmel Live. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
All right, it's picture time. Wonder where we're going tonight.
All around the province we've been going.
Back to the North Shore.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. We're close to it anyway,
Okay.
inland. But have a look at this. We're going to zoom in on Hopewell, which is just south of New Glasgow, and a beautiful sunrise picture.
Very nice.
I like the old trucks.
Cars.
Yeah.
Trucks.
Thank you so
Very
much
good.
to Paul Kerr for sharing this. Ryan's Picks at cbc.ca. Yeah, sunrise are getting earlier now. They're easier to capture as the days get shorter. Okay, quick update. So on the right of your screen, that's Gabrielle, destined for Portugal, and although just a remnant Gabrielle. Off to the south, we've got two clusters there. The one that is over the Caribbean, that one still has an 80% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone over the next 7 days. The one on the right, that is Humberto. And Humberto is going to be rolling its way slowly over the next few days, but looks like it will thread the needle between Bermuda and the U.S. That said, long-range forecast models still curving it out to sea, thankfully. So we'll keep you posted on that, but that's the latest storm we'll be keeping track of. Quiet conditions for Thursday. Wet Thursday night and through Friday with that much needed rain tracking in. And the good news is after the rain, we're clearing for the weekend.
Perfect.
Sounded pretty good. Okay, thanks, Ryan. Well, it is bulking season for the brown bears of Alaska, and it's time to crown one bear the chunkiest champion for the 11th annual Fat Bear Week.
Yes, Fat Bear Week is a wildly popular online voting contest hosted by the U.S. National Park in Alaska. 12 burly brown contenders have spent the summer gorging on sockeye salmon, fattening up for the winter ahead.
Burly is a good word. The contest is meant to highlight the resiliency of Alaska's brown bear population. This year brings in a mix of returning favorites and new challengers.
And you can meet the contenders and vote online every day for the next week. One bear will be crowned the fattest on September 30th.
What a title.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.